Hi, everyone, and welcome to Alaska's Disability Pride Celebration. This is Alaska's third annual event celebrating Disability Pride and the Americans with Disabilities Act. The ADA passed 30 years ago on July 26th, and July is Disability Pride Month. Today, we hope to promote that message of honoring every person's uniqueness and differing abilities as a beautiful part of human diversity. Today's special guest is Lydia X.Z. Brown, and Lydia is a disability justice advocate, organizer, attorney, educator, and writer who has focused on violence against multiply-marginalized disabled people. Lydia will be interviewed by Ric Nelson, Alaska disability advocate, who has advocated for people with disabilities for over 20 years. And after 8 years serving on the Governor's Council after 8 years of serving on the Governor's Council on Disabilities and Special Education, Ric now works for them and continues to be a strong advocate. And joining today, Ric is his DSP, Gemma Winston. We'll get to their interview in just a minute, but first I want to remind folks that every day this week through Saturday, beginning at noon, we will feature a national guest speaker interviewed by a live Alaskan advocate, and the interview will be followed by a question and answer period where we will take questions from the audience. So you can start writing in your questions now into the comments section, and at the end of today's interview, we will be asking Lydia some of those questions. We'll close each day with a pre-recorded interview with an Alaskan disabilities advocate sharing their personal story. And today's recorded interview is with Jenna Crafton. Sunday's event will be just a little different. It happens between 2 and 4 p.m. Alaska time, and will feature a variety of speakers and musicians and advocates, including autism advocate and animal behavior expert Temple Grandin. And we'll also have a Q&A with her. And we also will be hearing from Eric Hauk, who is the lead guitar player for Portugal the Man. He's going to play a couple songs and have a short interview. And there will be other musicians playing, and also a disabilities champion awards ceremony at the end. So tune in all this week via Facebook. But for folks who do not have Facebook, we will be posting a YouTube link eventually. So don't forget, if you have a question today for our speaker, feel free to write your question in the comments section, and we'll get to as many as we can. And without further discussion, I'd like to turn it over to Ric Nelson and Lydia X.Z. Brown.
Thank you, Terry, for that introduction.
Yeah. So, hi,
So, hi, Lydia. Welcome to our Disability Pride.
Thank you so much for having me. This is Lydia.
Yeah. So
So I was wondering if you could start us out by telling us a little bit about yourself.
This is Lydia. I'm currently sitting in a room that just shows a couple of windows with blinds. I'm wearing a t-shirt that says disability justice is love, and the O in the word love is replaced with a heart. And I'm an East Asian person with a partially shaved head and medium-ish hair on the other side with glasses looking directly at the camera. I'm explaining what this looks like visually as a form of access for folks here who are blind or low vision or don't have the internet bandwidth to access the visuals the same as others. Also on the screen, you're seeing Ric, and you're seeing an interpreter who is signing, and Ric is sitting in an office chair by a large screen. So myself and my work for the last 10 years, I've been in disability rights and disability justice. I focused for much of that time on addressing interpersonal and state violence that targets disabled people at the margins of the margins, and especially disabled people who live at the intersections of race, class, gender, sexuality, language, and nation. I've been an educator, an advocate, an organizer, a strategist, and an attorney. I do cultural work, community building, direct support, and mutual aid work. And I currently work full-time addressing issues of algorithmic fairness and justice and disability.
So I have to go for you.
So thank you. I have a few questions prepared for you.
So how you organize?
So I wanted to start off with, how have you overcome your challenges?
What are the
What are your strengths?
what the person? What the
Was there a person or a mentor in your life who inspired you to follow your path?
This is Lydia. So those are a lot of questions, and I'll start by backing up a little bit. For me as a disabled person, when people ask me how I've overcome challenges, I always like to turn around that question and talk very specifically about the ways in which we understand challenge as disabled people. Most of the time when people ask us, what have you done to overcome a challenge? What they're really asking is, how have we overcome being disabled? But Rick, I think you and I both know from our personal experience that more often than not, the challenges that we deal with are caused by the way that society treats us, by policies, philosophies, and practices that devalue our lives and our humanity, that deprive us and exploit us, and that extract work and labor and capacity out of us until we have nothing left to offer, to give to ourselves or to our communities. And some of the ways that that violence happens are directly tied to our disabilities and weaponize aspects of our disabilities against us. And for me, as an autistic person, I've spent much of my life being accused of lacking the ability to empathize with other people, because that is the perception of what autism is that it's supposed to be an impairment of social communicative context, of empathy, that it impairs our ability to form relationships. And the reality is that many autistic people that I know are deeply and profoundly empathetic, but the neurotypical dominant world does not have empathy for autistic ways of being and moving and sensing and communicating and learning. And some of the issues that we deal with may derive directly out of our disabilities. There are aspects about living in the world as someone who has OCD and has depression that are inherently distressing, regardless of the ways that other people might treat me or might think about it. But even so, the ways in which society expects disabled people to either somehow hide or overcome our disabilities, or alternately to overcompensate by performing and outperforming everybody else, or to simply exist as the broken, sad, pitiable objects of other people's charity, end up being significantly more harmful than they are ever helpful to us. So to the extent that I've overcome challenges, really what I've spent a lot of time doing is overcoming other people's horrifically ableist expectations of me and of people who are like me. And I do that most often by directly challenging where those expectations come from. So sometimes people will think, well, we can overcome, say, low expectation by getting a college degree or by getting a job, by publishing something or doing something public that proves that we're intelligent or capable. But I don't find that helpful either. I also find that to be representative of ableist values, that people only get to count as human and deserving of rights if they can prove that they're smart enough, which again goes back to ableist ideas about intelligence, who counts as intelligent and who doesn't. And my worth as a human being is neither somehow detracted from because I am disabled, nor do I have to prove my worth as a human being by proving that I have certain types of accomplishments or skills? We are all human. We all deserve to be treated with respect, to have our dignity and our autonomy honored, to receive care and to be part of community, and to feel a sense of belonging and worth and value. And that's what I spend a lot of my time doing. And the people who I find I admire and look up to are those that are fighting to make that kind of a world a reality for everyone.
You are absolutely good.
You are absolutely correct, and thanks for that.
How do you
So how did you become interested or know that you wanted to go into the justice field?
I don't know that there's a specific instance or a specific experience that was like, this is exactly why I am choosing to do work for justice. So much as that I've had from the time I was a very small child, the belief, the value, and the sense that every single one of us has a moral obligation to use whatever resources we have available to us to fight oppression or violence in any form. And I've talked about this in a number of contexts, and something that I often bring up is that for me as an autistic person who cares deeply about my values, as many autistic people do, even though those values might be different for different autistic people, a sense of fairness or justice has always been important to me. I feel physically wrong when I know that injustice exists, which means that I've spent my entire life feeling physically wrong. I feel physically ill. It affects me mental health wise, physical health wise, in other ways that I exist in the world. I feel wrong knowing that injustice exists. And no matter what form that took, and that's changed throughout my life, I've always wanted to fight for justice in whatever way I possibly can. Now, whether I, am doing things well or doing things right, that's a whole other conversation. And I don't think that I, of course, would be the right person to judge that, because the question of accountability and responsibility is always to the communities that I come from, and then communities that I don't belong to, but I work in solidarity with. Am I doing right? Am I doing right by communities that I come from and communities that I seek to work in solidarity with? Am I being responsive to the needs of people who experience oppression and violence that I don't experience? And am I being true to myself and authentic to who I am in the work that I do?
Thank you for that.
So,
So as you know, we're in the 30th anniversary of the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act.
So, how do the ADA for
So how do you think that the ADA has changed things for people with disabilities, or do you have any insights on the ADA?
The ADA represented a major turning point in the history of civil rights for disabled people in the United States. It was the first broadly sweeping piece of civil rights legislation affecting disabled people across the lifespan. Before the ADA, we had the Rehabilitation Act, which applied to federally funded programs and services. And we'd also had the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, formerly the Education for Handicapped Children Act. Of course, it was renamed, and for good reason. But both of those pieces of legislation only applied to very specific contexts. The one only to federally funded programs, and the other only to people in school age, and not to people past school age. So the ADA represented this turning point by creating a certain set of federal standards that, at least in law, guaranteed the right to equal access and equality of opportunity and community integration. But of course, as many of you all know who are watching this, the promises of the ADA remain largely unfulfilled. It's been 3 decades since this bill was signed into law. And we still see schools, we see government agencies, local, state, and federal. We see nonprofit organizations, even disability advocacy organizations routinely, flagrantly, and blatantly violate the provisions of the ADA and how they treat their students, how they treat their employees, how they treat their clients or customers, how they treat the public, how they treat people over whom they exert power and control. They do not follow their own laws. And so the ADA represented an important symbolic victory that certainly did come with some tangible changes for disabled people, but primarily benefited only those of us who already held the most power, privilege, and resources within the disability community, and not those who are most marginalized and most impacted by ableism and other forms of oppression within disabled community. That is, queer and trans disabled people, low-income disabled people, disabled Black, Brown, Indigenous, and other people of color, disabled people from immigrant families, regardless of documentation status, disabled people of minority faiths, disabled people who do not have certain types of education or cannot do work according to our society's definition of productive labor and consumption, have been left out and left behind. And it is our communities, those of us who are multiply marginalized, who are most harmed by ableism. And the ADA, for all of its importance in our history, and don't get me wrong, it is important, has not done anything materially to change that reality.
I agree with you, and I think we have a lot of work to do to move the ADA forward. And I think in the next 30 years, we need to move it forward even more. So has society's ideas about your disability ever gotten in the way of your dreams and goals? And if so, how did you cope with society's discrimination and still achieve any dreams or goals that you had?
This is Lydia again. I don't know that there's a quick way to enumerate the many ways that I've experienced ableism personally, but I'll take us back a little bit into law school and college, where some people's ableism became very readily apparent. I remember as a foreign language major in college, distinctly, the first time that I requested an accommodation on a certain type of assignment, a professor looking at me and saying, "Well, Lydia, if you have that kind of a problem, why would you bother trying to learn a language?" And I'm thinking, wow, asshole, I speak several of them. Fuck you. You know, that's the most polite way I can think of to explain this. In that same time period, I was required as a foreign language major to complete a study abroad program. And I remember being called in to the office of one of the study abroad advisors who says to me, "Well, you know, I think that you need to make sure that you have a one-on-one with your professors when you go abroad and tell them about your disability." You know, and I said, maybe there are reasons to do that, maybe not. Disclosure is different in different settings. So I asked, okay, why do you believe disclosure would be a good idea up front in this scenario? And she says to me, "Well, you know, when you walk into a room, people can just tell that you're different." And I'm thinking, excuse me? She said, people just know that there's something different about you. Like when you talk, when you're in a class, and I'm thinking, first of all, I had been under the very false impression that I passed for abled a lot more than I probably do. But secondly, even if I definitely don't pass for abled at all, like the way that you are talking about me says that you have a problem with me, that you think there's something wrong with how I exist in public that needs to be preemptively justified. I was called in for a meeting because the study abroad staff were concerned that I wouldn't be safe while abroad, solely based on assumptions about my disabilities. And rather than say, like specific location, specific reasons to be worried about somebody. Like there are specific features of the city that will make navigation harder, or there happen to be more instances of on the street harassment and violence targeted toward people with demographics like yours. It was simply because of assumptions about your disability. We're worried that you might not be safe. Fast forward to law school, where at one point during my first year, some other students apparently anonymously complained that I was disruptive during exams, causing the school's administrative staff to make the unilateral decision to remove me from the exam testing room and require me to test alone in a segregated, isolated room without ever even investigating whether these accusations about my allegedly disruptive behavior were true, or giving me a chance to maybe change my allegedly disruptive behavior. This is just the tip of the iceberg. I could go on for hours about the instances of discrimination and retaliation that I faced in academic environments. I could go backwards, even before college. I could go forwards, post like this year, first year of law school. But all that to say, I tell people a lot that when I finished college, I actually graduated in the bottom 10% of my class. When I finished law school, our law school didn't use letter grades for their evaluations. They used narrative evaluations, but I calculated what my GPA might have been had I actually received a GPA based off of the evaluations we received, and my graduating GPA would have been something like a 2.2. And so on paper, by the time I was in college and law school, I kind of looked like a dismal student. But anybody who knows me, if you knew me before college, if you know me now, people who knew me during that time period but outside of college and law school would never have guessed that. They wouldn't have believed, oh, Lydia Brown is a dismal student. But the reality is that no matter how smart or not smart somebody is, what skills they have, how they show up, the way our academic environments are set up, the deck is stacked. If you're disabled in any way, the deck is stacked against you. And people's low expectations and ableist beliefs about your behavior, your performance, your intelligence, your capacity, whether you even deserve to be there, will inevitably come out in how they treat you. So I tell people about that because, I am damn proud of the D's and C's that I got when I was in higher education, because those C's and D's represented how fucking hard I worked to succeed despite the conditions stacked against me. And I think I turned out fine.
No, I have to agree with you on that.
And I have to agree with you on that.
Yeah, I have that situation.
Because I had the same situation when I was going to school. Because people thought that I couldn't make it. And here I am with a master's degree. So I understand your situation.
How do you do it?
And my next question for you is, how do you think that disability rights and gay rights interplay with each other?
This is Lydia. There is no one easy or quick way to answer that question. All oppression is interrelated. All oppressions are dependent on one another, and necessary for one another. So that is to say, discrimination, prejudice, and oppression of gay and other queer people is dependent on and connected to ableism or disability oppression. And ableism and disability oppression is connected to, necessary for, and dependent on anti-queer oppression. It's at their heart. Oppression of queer people and disabled people are both based in assumptions about what kinds of bodies and brains are valuable, are healthy, are normal, and ideal. And also, at the same time, what kinds of bodies and brains are sick, disordered, unhealthy, abnormal, and deviant. They're deeply interrelated. And we see that play out through the history and ongoing reality of people who are queer being pathologized or medicalized. It was literally only until the 1990s that the American Psychiatric Association finally agreed to remove homosexuality from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. And today, gender dysphoria, formerly called gender identity disorder in the previous DSM, is still in the DSM and used as a psychiatric diagnosis, pathologizing or medicalizing being trans. And there's a tension between non-disabled queer people and trans people and disabled people, both queer and trans and cis and het disabled people, about what belongs or doesn't belong in the DSM. Because for many of us, right, there are experiences of disability that are distressing and for which modalities of support might look like what we call medical or psychiatric treatment, and that might be desired by some of us, certainly not all, and certainly not for everyone. But at the same time, the rhetoric coming from many queer and trans people that, well, we don't belong in the DSM, we should be removed from the DSM because being queer or being trans, well, that's not a mental illness, there's nothing wrong with us, has embedded in it this assumption that the people over there, the ones that legitimately have mental illness, well, there is something wrong with those people, which of course both pits disabled and queer and trans people against each other and leaves actually disabled queer and trans people, especially psych-disabled queer and trans people, in a lurch. What do? We've been left behind by both aspects of this tension that seek to erase our very existence. We also see this play out, for example, in the use of the widespread use and funding for applied behavior analysis called ABA. And ABA is widely touted as the gold standard evidence-based treatment for autism. Well, ABA was created and devised by the very same person, Ole, that's O-L-E, Ivar, I-V-A-A-R, Lovas, L-O-V-A-A-S, Ole Ivar Lovas, who was funded by the National Institutes on Health to devise gay conversion therapy using behaviorism. It was called the Feminine Boys Project, or in his everyday parlance, they called it the Sissy Boys Project, where kids who were assigned male at birth, but who displayed stereotypically feminine movement, speech, gait, interests, speech, etc., were subjected to a harsh regimen of reward and punishment, where anytime they displayed a stereotypical masculine behavior, they got a reward. Anytime they displayed a stereotypical feminine behavior, they got a punishment. And less than a couple of years later, Lovas transferred the very same program principles into a program for autistic children, in which he also electric shocked them as punishment. And most people today who practice ABA will say, well, we don't do that now. We advocate for safe, ethical, humane ABA. We don't do that kind of abuse. But the reality is that ABA is abuse. And yet it's funded and subsidized at disproportionately high rates compared to every other form of therapy or support for autistic youth and adults. And people consider it evidence-based, it's scientific. But it has its roots in and it's deeply intertwined with conversion therapy. And so challenging anti-queer oppression and challenging disability oppression have always gone hand in hand, and they still do today. And it's incumbent on people who experience more privilege in both communities to recognize and uplift the work of disabled, queer, and trans people who've always been at the forefront of challenging oppression and fighting for justice.
I appreciate that very much.
Ben, thanks for that, Lydia. I appreciate that very much.
Do you have for the gay community?
Do you have any specific advice or words of wisdom for people who live with disabilities within the gay community? Or any oppressed community that lives with disabilities?
This is Lydia. For me, the thing that has been most important in my life and in dealing with the different traumas that I have survived and dealing with the everyday trauma of living in a world that doesn't mean for people like us to survive in it has been finding and connecting with my people. And sometimes that means other queer, trans, disabled people of color who share the same experiences that I do, or at least many of the same experiences, bearing in mind, of course, that we're all different. We don't have the same experiences. There are other aspects of privilege and power and marginality, even within that group. But sometimes it is important for us to find out the people like us and create spaces and projects for and amongst ourselves. And I've done that in my work in curating and working with Morenike. That's Morenike, Giwa, Giwa, Onaiwu, Onaiwu, and Alicia, Elisia, Ashkenazi, Ashkneza. I think I spelled that wrong. Why? I can't spell anymore in English or ASL. It's not happening. Alicia and Morenike and I curated together an anthology by autistic people of color for autistic people of color. And Alicia, if you watch this later, just blame the fact that my brain is addled on caffeine. I can't spell anything. I think I spelled the word disability wrong earlier today. We have to create spaces and projects for ourselves because we can't wait for other people to do it for us. We have to do it for ourselves. But sometimes finding our people also means finding the spaces that welcome us that might be outside of our identities and experiences. Sometimes that's what we need, to find the people that share our experiences, to whom we don't have to explain ourselves over and over again. And sometimes what it means is finding the people who welcome us and accept us for who and what we are and all the baggage that each of us brings, even if they don't understand and even if they do not share the same experiences that we do. And we have to do that because taking care of ourselves is a community and collective project. Other folks have spoken about this much more eloquently and in more detail than me. When we talk about self-care, we're both naming a reality that we need to take care of ourselves because, as the saying goes, you can't pour water from an empty cup. But also, to be able to do self-care is to come from a position of privilege, because many of us live in a world that actively deprives us and prevents us from the ability to receive care, to rest, to take a break, to somehow just take care of ourselves. And so we have to take care of each other. We have to work on developing care collectives and practices for community care where we can distribute and share the work of caring physically, spiritually, and emotionally for one another. And doing that work means creating those spaces for ourselves and helping others create those spaces where we can thrive and be honored as whole human beings.
Thank Thank you, Lydia, for that.
So that Lydia has great on it.
So now we're going to have some questions from the audience.
So to ask the
And I'll pass it to Terry. If you could please ask those questions, that'd be great.
Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Lydia. We do have some questions that have come in from audience members, and I want to encourage folks who are watching live to go ahead and write your comments in the section below, and we will get to as many as we can by the end of the interview. The first one is, can you describe what your anti-ableism workshops are like? Who do you think needs to hear them the most?
This is Lydia. Thank you for that question. It depends on what we're talking about, right? Because anti-ableism is a set of beliefs and practices that are guided by those beliefs. It is also ongoing processes. And it is not something you do once, set it and forget it, and congratulations, you've been to a workshop with me or somebody else. Now you're not ableist anymore magically all of a sudden. It's not how that works. But what a workshop on anti-ableist practice helps us do is to better understand politically and philosophically what ableism is and how it shows up in broader society and in our interpersonal relationships and within ourselves and our own lives. And it gives us opportunities to examine how ableism has affected our own thinking, our own lives, and our work, and the opportunity to begin to shift both our thoughts and our practices so that they better reflect the values that we want to share in being anti-ableist and practicing anti-ableism. And this is Lydia. To add to the second part of that question, I realized I did not address it. Who benefits? The reality is that we are all raised in a profoundly ableist society. We are all taught to be ableist, even and especially us as disabled people. We are taught to be ableist. Ableism teaches us to be afraid of our bodies and brains, to be ashamed of our bodies and brains, and to hate and be repulsed by bodies and brains that we consider or that are marked as disabled or less than in some way or another. And we all apply that to our own selves. When we feel inadequate or insufficient because we haven't achieved something specific, or when we feel that we don't really count as disabled enough, or when we feel ashamed if we've become disabled in newer ways, in ways that affect our lives more, in ways that maybe we need more support. So we can all benefit from thinking about learning, examining, and practicing anti-ableism.
Very good. Thank you for that answer. This is Terry, and I'm going to ask another question from the audience, which is, hello, Lydia. Would you consider coming to Alaska once? Would you consider coming to Alaska once travel and group gatherings are able to happen again in a safe manner?
This is Lydia. I was just about to say, well, when there's not a pandemic, sure, but you already prefaced your question that way. When there's not a pandemic and we're not necessarily accidentally killing each other by traveling a lot, I would be happy to visit with you all and come to see Alaska. It is one of the few states that I have not yet had a chance to visit, and I would be thrilled to join you.
Awesome. That's great. Well, I'm hoping Lanny will take that note down so we can plan something when things are a little safer. Okay, and again, this is Terry asking a question from the audience. When it comes to people with disabilities, what are your thoughts on Black Lives Matter protests?
This is Lydia. As a non-Black disabled person of color, it is incumbent on me to implore all others in the communities I'm in, especially white people and other non-Black people in my communities, disabled, queer, and trans communities, to keep working in active solidarity with our Black disabled community members. Black disabled people, advocates, leaders, community builders have been telling us forever that ableism and racism and ableism and white supremacy are deeply and inextricably intertwined. And we can witness that anywhere we look, whether that is in specific political rhetoric that assigns physical and mental inferiority to Black people, Native people, and other people of color in ways that are deeply ableist, or whether it is in actual practices, the psychiatric establishment medicalizing and pathologizing protest, dissent, and resistance, as Black disabled advocates have traced forever. And in, for example, diagnosing work stoppages by enslaved Black people as dysthnesia, I can spell that later, Etiopica, or in diagnosing attempted or actual escape of enslavement by Black people as drapetomania, or in rhetoric that expands into other negatively racialized communities to medicalize, pathologize, and diagnose us. Ableism and white supremacy have always been intertwined. And to ask, what do I make of Black Lives Matter protests, is to ask me, what do I make of justice? Black people who have been leading resistance and movement against criminalization, incarceration, and other forms of state violence that overwhelmingly target Black people and Black communities have been telling us that the situation that they are living in is one of constant crisis and trauma. And so for us to do anything other than offer our actual support and solidarity with our time, our money if we have it, our emotional resources, our capacity, is to ignore the cause of justice. We don't actually end ableism or disability oppression unless we also end white supremacy and specifically anti-Black racism as well. It won't ever disappear. And so, you know, to folks who might say, as you may have been asked or told by others, well, what does that have to do with disability? The answer is everything. Black disabled advocates like Leroy Moore, Talila Lewis, sign name just TL, or Dustin Gibson and Saray Jarrell Johnson, that's Cyree, Jarrell Johnson, they've been telling us forever that disabled Black people make up the vast majority of people who are killed by police and people who are incarcerated. And so, as TL will tell us, the intersection of disability and race is the most dangerous intersection that history has ever created. So what does the Black Lives Matter movement have to do with disability? Everything. And I would encourage you and others who are watching and listening to look up and read and learn from and study the work of Black disabled advocates.
Very good. Thank you for that answer. And very thorough, and I appreciate the thoroughness of your answers in today's interview. Thank you for that. Again, this is Terry, and I think we have time for one last question, and that comes from, and again, I don't have the names of the people asking the questions. They're being pasted into the Zoom group, so apologies for not mentioning folks' names. But the last one here says, as an ally, what can we do every day to support oppressed communities?
This is Lydia. It goes back to the previous couple of answers that I've been speaking on, which is when you come from a place of privilege or power or access to resources of any kind, and many of us do have some access to privilege or resources, even when we are multiply marginalized as well, it is incumbent on us to use those resources in a way that promotes redistributive justice. That is, return power, resources, and autonomy to the most directly impacted communities that have been exploited and had labor and resources extracted from them or us. And it also means use the power or privilege or platform that you might have to challenge not just the distribution and the artificial scarcity of the privilege or the resources, but also the structures within which they exist. And that requires learning from, studying, and following the lead of those who are impacted and what those in your communities are asking you to do materially. And in some communities, that is put your body on the line physically and help defend. In others, it is literally cede the mic, give up the pay cut, demand that the raise you would have been offered if you're white, go to people of color. If you were already making a very comfortable salary, and your organization is undoubtedly depriving employees of color, especially Black and Native employees, of the same amount of compensation, you have the power to say this raise needs to go and be distributed among those who have been deprived of that compensation. It means actually cede power where it affects you, where it is uncomfortable, where it is inconvenient. Because only when those who have power are willing to give up that power, only when those who have resources are willing to engage in redistributive justice as determined by those who lack resources, only then can we actually see the fruit of allyship as practice.
Very good. Thank you so much for that answer. And thank you so much for the interview today. I really want to, on behalf of the Disability Pride, the Alaska Disability Pride Celebration Group, the planning group, I want to thank you for participating and thank Rick for the interview and Colleen for interpreting. And we are going to close with a video that was recorded, a pre-recorded video for, it's an interview with Jenna Crafton. First though, I just want to make sure I thank everybody on the planning committee because so many people participated in this. Garrett Dominic, Travis Noah, Jenna and Tom Crafton, Sydney Krebsbaugh, Heidi Lieb Williams, Anna Pieper, Anna Smith, Karen Brunello, Cynthia Hensley, Eric Gurley, Lanny Momsen, Nikki Marcano, Wendy Cloyd, Katie Wheeler, Ric Nelson, Maggie Winston, Lucy Oden, Sabrina Richmond, Holly Yancey, Lacey Rodriguez, Rachel Robinson, Colleen Peterson, Kim Champney, and me, your MC, Terry Tibbet. And we're going to turn it back over to Lacey, who's going to roll the video. And thanks again, Lydia, for participating today.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope for many more collaborations in the future.
I'm Jena Crafton. I live in Eagle River. I used to be living on a sailboat for 7 years, and I've been sailing with my mom, my sister, my brother, and I around the world. And I finished circumnavigation when I was 21. Been to 25 different countries before I was 21, maybe 24 different countries. My disability is I have an intellectual disability, so I can't translate sometimes. My mom and my dad had to be with me to translate because that's who I am, because it's hard for us to have translate. My mom, long time ago, when I was 3, I have a speech problem, so she can't understand me, and I talk Russian, but I never know Russian. This is the way I talk. You know, some people talk Southern accents than everybody else, so that's my language. I guess my smile, my strength. My strengths are meeting people. My mom and my dad, when I was little, my mom and dad take me out everywhere, walk around and meeting people. So when I was 3 or 2, I go on people's laps and I have a speech problem, so I don't know some words, and I just looking at them, I guess, and to try to talk to them. But I was a late talker at 3, so I just staring at them. You know, silent is like put your hand up, saying hi, and I guess that's it. And I like meeting people, and I like learning about different cultures because it's so interesting. Because you understand more the person to be more in culture with them, because you understand their values and their people. With like saying, I'm friends with Vanuatu people, and I study them, the culture, and I understand them, and I have a lot of respect for everybody, and I'm not, I just really like learning different cultures and trying to understand different religions to understand more people and hear what they have to say. Just interesting, huh? Any disabilities come to learn about disability pride. Some people like girls and some people like boys and some people, I don't know, but it doesn't affect me. I just go there because it's your peers, your interaction with the peers, and understand what's happening with disability, and learn a lot. Disability people. Martin Luther King Jr. is one of my heroes because he fought for the civil rights movement, and he fought so passion and deep, and he have some people use violence but to get the message across, but he doesn't. He have so peaceful, and I want to do something like that, but mine gonna be like him, a movement. I want to be in the senator, so that's my big challenge. I want to be the first disability senator. I have 2 temple granted. Seem really interested because my dad, when he go to be a psychologist for autism long time ago, kind of interested because he studied for when he go to school long time ago. So kind of be interested how they reconnected and maybe they know each other, and it's cool to hear what she had to say, and probably put a good to man too, because the guy have a disability, kind of interested how's his music coming and how he come have a disability. Do Zumba every day, go jogging if it's nice out. You still going with the raincoat. Go kayaking and just enjoy life. Challenge everybody to have a better message. Like look on your What's your dream job? What you want to do in your life? You want to sit at home and watching TV and eating bonbons? For me, that's a death sentence. But if you want to have a better job, a good job, and want to have a good life, you got to work on your strengths and into a dream job. That's a good question. I don't know any good superpowers. I made the world a better place, I guess. Super good. She helped people a lot. So she has strengths, but her weakness is the one. What the Superman got? The green stuff. Can't remember. Kryptonite. So that's their weakness, kryptonite. But mostly she helped a lot of people, and she's a reporter and help out best she can talking. But she fight a little bit, but she helped people out a lot. She's so strong, she moved a big truck on the side and get somebody out. She flies everywhere. That's my superpower is flying. I like around the world and like, I'm in this country, I help somebody out